Hello, basketball fans. It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for Week 14 of the NBA season by breaking down the waiver wire. If you haven't already seen it, I did do my normal Week 14 preview. I'll link it right here. You should check it out. It went out early Friday night because it was a pre-scheduled thing, so you might have missed it. So give that a look. It's an interesting week we have here because there are a ton of games, which is going to make streaming a little difficult because Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, basically every other day, there's at least 11 games, which means we only have 3 streaming days, and those are very low on game counts. Tuesday has 2, and Thursday and Saturday have 3 games each. So I'm not going to rehash all that. Like I said, the link will be here, or you can check it out after the video. So it's not a great way to go about streaming as the way I would normally recommend. To pick up this player, and you're going to get 3 games out of him and something like that. Makes it a little easier for weekly lock leagues because something like 23 of the teams are all playing 4 games. So you really don't want to include anyone who has 2 games, which 3 of the teams do. In a weekly lock league, you need to make sure you got your 4 games or you're going to be at a significant disadvantage. Recapping a couple of the shallow league ads from last week, Anfernee Simons is 72% rostered. He was just over 50% last time I said he's a must-own, he's playing well. The ownership is shot up, he's playing really well, and Dame had the surgery. So if 72% still seems too low, if he's out there in 30% of leagues, double check, make sure he's not available in one of your leagues. And I would give a look to Cam Johnson. He's rostered at 51%, so it's higher than we talk about on the show, make it widely available. He's technically injured right now and out, but he's been useful, and at 51%, you might want to take a look and see if you could use him for the rest of the year. That might be more helpful than some of the guys we're going to go deep on this week. Right at the cutoff, obvious name, Kobe White, 50% rostered. He's been playing well. We've talked about him before. I don't need to rehash thoughts on his game and stuff like that. But with Zach hurt, his minutes are going to go up. I think by now we've seen a good stretch from Kobe and kind of know what to expect. Chicago has 4 games, but none of them are on the good streaming days. But with Zach hurt, Kobe White was useful before. Now you're going to get some extra run with that. And, hopefully Caruso's back, but they're very different guards. Caruso actually is playing at a forward. So I'm not too worried about that threat shaking up Kobe as much as I was when both him and Ball were out, and I was wondering what the minutes were going to look like. Hamidou Diallo, I just want to mention again, he's at 48% rostered. He's not as hot as he was the other week, but I still think he could be valuable. The Pistons have 4 games. One of them's on a good streaming day to start the week. So I think it could be useful long-term. I'm a little surprised that he didn't cross 50. So I just want to mention him again. Over the last 30 days, he's rated 103 in 8 category leagues. And so probably roughly that in points leagues, maybe a little bit lower. Still think he's worth a look, but we're not going to rehash everything there either. Let's get to some new names. Amir Coffey is playing really well for the Clippers. He's only 30% rostered. His last game, he had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 1-1-1 for assists, steals, and blocks, 4 3-pointers. That's awesome. A couple games before that, he had 21 points. I don't think he's going to be consistent at this level, but the Clippers need some help. He's playing well enough to get the attention. I think there's a good chance even when Paul George eventually comes back, which I'm not sure exactly where the timeline update is on that. It might be a couple weeks out still. But I think it's possible that Coffey stays in the starting lineup, and if not, has a 6-man role off the bench, which means he should have enough minutes to be viable. I read a thing that he's on a minutes limit, but these game box scores don't reflect that, right? Look at this, 32, 26, 43, 33. This doesn't look like a minutes limit. I don't know if that's just some PR stuff, but he's playing a ton now. Even if that backs down, I think he could sustain some value. I think he's worth a look. It's not the greatest week for it. 4 games, none of them streaming days, but over the last 2 weeks, he is rated player 85 and available in 70% of leagues. I think he's worth the pickup. On the Pistons, I'd give Trey Lyles a look. 27% rostered. That just jumped 15%, so he's one of the trending pickups right now. He just had a 21-point game, 7 rebounds. By the time you see this, he's actually probably going to be done playing his Sunday game, so we might get a little more information out of how he did against Phoenix. I think he's worth a look. Over the last 2 weeks, he's player 118, so it's nothing to write home about, but he is solid. And Detroit has a decent schedule here. I already talked about it for Hamidou. They've got 4 games. One of them's a streaming day. It's against Golden State, so you don't love the matchup, but you're not going to get a lot of streaming days out of this week. And I think he could provide some more value. Now, there's a caveat to that, and it's someone else who's on this list. Kelly Olynyk is at 45% rostered. He's officially listed as available for today's game, Sunday's game. I'm not sure if he's going to play, if they have to ramp him back up, But at 45% rostered, he was definitely helping out fantasy teams before. I think he's been forgotten about because he's been gone for a long time. If you're not super worried about how this week's going to go and you're more interested about a long-term thing, maybe you want Olynyk. You know, Lyles, I'm hoping will sustain value for you if you pick him up. But I think Olynyk is going to be able to come right back to his role. And if that was something that you're looking for, I think we know what Olynyk does. You can look back at his averages before he went out and expect that to roughly return. And at 45% rostered, you might have a starting big that you can use. There seems to be a theme on my waiver wire this week, and I'm not trying to, but I'm talking about a lot of big men. Jeff Green for Denver, but he's got small forward, power forward, and center eligibility, at least on Yahoo that I'm looking at right now. He's been playing really well. He just had a 26-point game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. I'm a little more interested in him in a points league where that condenses down and just gives you a good output. You know, he shoots a high percentage, and that's going to help. You're not going to get little points taken away from missed shots and stuff like that. But I also like his roster flexibility. If he's only 20% rostered, he's available in 80% of leagues. It's not a great week for him, but he does have a 4-game week next week. I also wanted to mention him because despite him being a good pickup right now and getting a lot of run, I also just laughed when I saw the note that the NBC Edge had for it, so I brought it up here. It said, Green's actually scored in double figures, because Green's out for protocols and the presence of the Los Angeles Lakers, bad at basketball. And that note just made me laugh. So, you know, I tip my cap at whoever wrote that note from NBC Sports Edge. Sticking with my Nuggets, if you want to go more high risk, high reward, let's talk about Bones Highland. He's 15% rostered, and on this channel, I was excited about Bones when he had a breakout earlier this season for a little bit, and then he disappeared from your fantasy roster. And that makes sense. That's what happened. And I probably got a little more excited about this rookie having a spark. And I saw stuff in the preseason in the summer league, and I was hoping he was going to continue. So I take notice that he just had 27 points and 10 rebounds, 2 steals, 6 3-pointers. The game before that, he had 5 3-pointers for 17 points. I'm not sure that it isn't fool's gold, and that's not trying to be a Denver Nuggets pun. But I do want to bring it up because I am excited about him. And if you're saying, Dave, Coffee might be out of here if Paul George, and I don't believe the Trey Lyles sustains because of Kelly Olynyk, and Kobe White's already gone in my league. You know, there's worse things than rolling the dice on Bones Highland. Even if it's not a great week for this week, that's okay because you're hoping that maybe you're going to get something a little more out of it. But it's definitely risky, and I missed on it before, but I like him. And whenever there's a player I like widely available, I'm going to bring it up because I'm hoping that maybe it'll matter come your fantasy playoffs. Similar to Bones, but I'm less excited about it. I would put Kevin Huerter on your watch list. I'm not ready to pull the trigger and pick him up just yet, but they did trade out Cam Reddish. That's going to free up some more minutes, I think, because I'm not too worried about Knox there in Atlanta. So you get some more minutes available on the wing, and maybe Huerter can do it. Also, doesn't hurt that the player's got a great nickname of Red Velvet. That's pretty funny. But I'm personally going to wait until I see a good performance or two before I jump on that. So he's only watch list for me. That said, when I take that approach, he might be gone before you can get him. So I mentioned him now so you can look at it and make your own call. If you're excited about the potential, let's go for it. But I'm just flagging him, and I'm going to keep an eye on what those next few box scores look like over probably this week and maybe into next week and see what happens. If it ends up not being Huerter, just by staying on top of the Atlanta box scores, we might be able to find something there, unless this is the first of a couple moves. We'll see. The trade talks are heating up, but I'm not sure that we're going to see a flurry of things this week. And the last name on my list is Marvin Bagley, which I wrote down under a header of meh, which maybe is a little fair, but I see he's a hot pickup. He's at 40% roster right now, but he jumped up 22%, the numbers I'm looking at. He had a huge game against Houston, 26 points, 13 rebounds. But here's the deal. Sacramento only has 2 games. Neither of them are on good streaming days. Over the last 2 weeks, Bagley's been playing pretty well for the Kings. You know, if we separate like the expectations put on Bagley when he was drafted in a class with like Luka and whatnot, we put that aside and just look at what Bagley's been doing as a player on the court for the Kings. I think it's been pretty solid. For fantasy, I don't think it moves the needle enough. Rated 202, that's not a guy worth rostering. Yeah, he had a big game of 26 and 13, but he was against Houston. He's playing Houston again today, maybe before you've even seen this. It's possible he had another big game, but then he gets a 2-game week, so you're not really going to use him. That said, if you see those 2 big games and it's a difficult week to stream, you want to just scoop him up, and see what happens on this week and don't plan on using him, but just lock him up in case this sustains. I don't hate that, but I'm really skeptical that that is going to be an option for you. And something I was thinking about while I'm wrapping this up, and I wonder if you guys have other names. I was trying to think, since we're past the halfway point of the fantasy season, you know, fantasy football has handcuffs, and maybe that's not as big as it used to be. But does fantasy basketball really have any handcuffs, right? Anfernee Simons has really popped with Dame out. And so that made me wonder where else we could look. The only name I came up with was Tyus Jones. You know, he's not doing as much with Ja in there, but when Ja was out, he played really well. And Ja has an explosive type of game that I love watching, but also terrifies me for injuries, somewhere between Rose and D Wade, of the explosive athleticism. And every time he lands, I hope he lands safely. So Tyus Jones is the only handcuff name I could come up with, but I wanted to kind of crowdsource it out there. Do you think this is something interesting to start brainstorming other ideas? Do you have people coming to mind? Because as the fantasy playoffs come, maybe you're sitting pretty and want to get ahead of this. So let's start talking about it mid-season. We don't have to make these moves just now, but that way we can be ready if something happens. And that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comments, all that stuff, and I'll be back real soon. Go out and win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts, and I'll be back soon with another video for you.